Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit more about Michael McKee, who is, sorry about the ball squeaking, who is the guy who's been arrested and charged for the double murder of Monique and Spencer Tepe over there in Columbus, Ohio, in the United States. So we're going to talk a little bit more about him. One of his neighbours has come out and spoke about him. We're going to look at how strange it is that an exact time of death has been given for this couple. How do they know? How do the police know that it was exactly at that time that it happened? So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the fact that it's coming out that it seems that um, he was being sued for malpractice. Is that what's precipitated this act of vengeance against Monique and Spencer? Bearing in mind that he's actually been divorced from Monique for over 8 years and they were only married so very briefly. That's a big mystery to a lot of people, isn't it, as to why now? Why not when they first split up if he was really angry with her? Or why not when she first met Spencer and got engaged? Or why not when she got married? And then since then, they've had 2 children together, years have passed. And presumably Michael has been sort of carrying on with his life. Has he not met anybody else? He's a vascular surgeon, seems to have a good job. But now it's transpiring that, of course, he is being, well, according to sources, he is being sued for malpractice. Is that what has brought this on? Is he just generally feeling that his life is falling apart? And when he thinks about who's to blame for that, is he tracing it all back to all those years ago when Monique left him so abruptly? Apparently, she just packed up and left while he was out at work, which suggests to me that she was probably quite scared of him. But again, not been confirmed. I don't know if that's true. This is what people are saying. And is he now sort of tracing that out? So all his malaise now in his life about the malpractice suit, is he tracing all that back to what happened with Monique all those years ago? Is that when his life took this downward trajectory and he's nurtured all that hate for all that time? Another thing that we're just going to discuss as well that seemed to be that they were supposed to appear in court in December to do with a custody hearing. We're going to have a look at that. What could that custody hearing be? They didn't have any children. He and Monique didn't have any children. Is it possibly about the dog? They had a dog, did they? I don't know. And is that whatever happened in that hearing or was about to happen, is that what's precipitated everything? Or has he just had a total mental break, just because of the malpractice suit? Is he just spent Christmas stewing over all the wrongs that Monique did to him in his eyes? Yeah, the motive. So although we're a bit further on and we know who killed Monique or who allegedly killed Monique and Spencer, I think it's even more mystifying. Why? Because you can sort of understand, I don't know, a grievance over money or when I say understand it, I'm not meaning to say that we'd go out and shoot people over it. But, people like to know why people do things. If there was a love triangle, if there was money issues, if there was some professional issues. But I think when people found out it was Michael, Monique's ex-husband, I think they were really surprised. Not because it was her ex-husband, because ex-husbands, unfortunately, well, not only ex-husbands, exes in general, do quite often murder. But to do it, so many years later, 8 years later, that is unusual, I think. It's normally talk about breakup violence, don't they? When people are at their most uh, dangerous, if you like, is normally when a relationship just breaks up, not 8 years down the line. But obviously, this man, he just didn't move on, or maybe there are other issues that are yet to come out. So that's what we're going to talk about anyway. And we're going to listen to an interview with one of Michael's neighbours who tells us, the usual type of thing. Oh, yeah, really nice guy. Would never have thought he would have done anything like this. Evil walks amongst us. You can never. I mean, to me, looking at his mugshot, he does look evil. But maybe that's just because I know what he's done or allegedly done. Maybe he's the sort of person, if you saw him out and about, met him in a social situation, or you woke up and he was your surgeon, maybe you wouldn't think. I personally think he has got a mean face. I'm sorry, I do. He looks mean, but maybe that's just the point he's got to now, mate. Apparently, according to his neighbour, as we'll see when she's been interviewed by Bamfield, nice guy, really nice guy. Absolutely no reason to think that he would do anything like this. He wasn't somebody who caused trouble in the neighbourhood, or because he lived in quite an exclusive condo type apartment block in Chicago, where a lot of professional people live. And yeah, he was walking amongst them, and they didn't know they had a double murderer, or a prospective double murderer, wandering around. So we're going to talk about that. So first of all, we're going to do a little bit of waffle. I'm going to say my usual thank yous so far. That's not really waffle, that's necessary. Thank you so much for watching, for liking, for subscribing. A special thank you to my members. A special thank you to those of you who sent me Ko-fis or super stickers or PayPals, especially donating towards my broken computer. So, and also thank you to people that have sent me so many suggestions of things that I could try to help. And I'm going to try all these things. I am in the course of trying. I think it's going to be a new computer. I don't think I can save the computer from what I've learned so far. But somebody gave me a brilliant idea the other day that I can use the screen from my computer with my laptop. So, because part of the complaint I have about using my laptop is it's small in comparison to, the computer. But so somebody said to me, oh, why don't you just link up now? Then they came out with a 10-minute blurb about how you do it. And, my eyes sort of glazed over, which isn't not because they're boring, but because I don't know what it is about technological things. As soon as someone starts talking to me about it, probably like some people do about true crime. I like talking about true crime. There'll be other people who, as soon as you start talking about true crime, their eyes glaze over. And I could just feel myself zoning out. It's like white noise. And I was trying to concentrate. But it just, anyway, they've told me how to do it, but they'll need to write it down. This person, I get them to write it down, and so I need written instructions. I can't do it from the listing either. I'm a person who needs, I'm old school. I need to read instructions. And then, yeah, might be able to link up the screen to my laptop, which at least will mean that I'll have a nice big screen to work with instead of this tiny little screen, which is, or it feels tiny in comparison. Yeah, and of course, the internet's laggy on it and stuff like that. But those sort of things can probably be fixed. But the actual laptop itself is quite slow. But anyway, so I'm working on it, and a lot of people have made donations. Thank you so much. I'm going to save up my pennies. I'm definitely having a new computer at some point. When? I don't know, but I will be doing. So it's just a question now, trying to save the stuff that's on the old computer. And maybe, just making what I'm having to work with at the moment as good as possible, really. So what else did I want to say with my waffle? So yeah, don't forget to like, to subscribe, and press notifications. A lot of people still saying that they weren't getting notifications. I've not been getting notifications of YouTube channels that I follow. Oh, the other thing I want to say is thank you to those of you who said that you've hyped my videos. That's another mystery. I have never had an option to hype on my, other YouTube channels. But I think I did once, and I tried to hype it. I don't know if I managed it or not. Um, I don't know where this hyping, how it works. It doesn't happen on every video, but there's a couple of you who have said to me, "Oh, I hyped your video. Thank you so much." Thank you so much for doing that. I don't know how you did it, but thank you. Yeah, okay, let's take the banner off. So before I start on the waffle, because I've got a little bit of waffle. If you don't like waffle, you're best to either come back in 10-20 minutes, or maybe wait till I release this video with all the waffle. I will be releasing this video with just the information about Michael on it. So, and that will come out at some point today, probably. So if you prefer to do that, then go ahead and do that. Before I start with the waffle, I want to say hi, you lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Hi, replay crew. Thank you for watching. Hi, trolley dollies. I haven't said hello to you for ages. I don't get many trolley dollies. I bet I'll get some soon because I'm going to do a video about Nicola Bulley soon because it's coming up to the sad anniversary of when Nicola went missing. And there's just recently been a case in the United States which reminded me a lot of Nicola's story. A woman going missing and a lot of aspersions cast as to what had happened to her, etc. And I think what I'm going to do is do a video comparing those two cases and go over the main points of Nicola Bulley case, just because it's coming up to that time of year. I think it was the 18th or 19th, wasn't it? 19th when Nicola first went missing. So yeah, I'll probably get a few trolley dollies on that one because that's where I always get my trolls. But anyway, I'm still doing it. So okay, now I'm going to come into the chat. Say hello to those of you who are brave enough to come in the chat before I start the waffle. So let's have a look. So just to let you know, it's still quite cold here in Spain, though it's 13 degrees today. So it is warming up. It's nice and sunny. I've been out this morning to walk the dogs. And the sun is out. So that's the main thing. Hi, Lily. Hi, David. Hi, Daniel. Happy Wednesday. Yes, probably a combination of factors, David. Probably not just one thing that set off this psychopath, but probably a combination of things. I was thinking about, I forgot it just shows you, even 8 years later, you're not safe from a stalky ex, So, yeah, it's amazing, really, to not moved on after all those years. Just shows you how people harbour grudges, don't they, deep in them for all those years. It's quite amazing, really, isn't it? I mean, the thing is, the mind is a very powerful thing, isn't it? A very powerful thing. We can get lost in mental illness, what might not be, actually sort of ideating about murdering people, but could be suicidal. Ooh, I'm not supposed to say that. Ideation, or you can get mired in worry in general, worrying about things that haven't happened and may not ever happen. I tend to do that. I tend to worry, and then I just get to a point where I just think, what the hell am I worrying about? Something that I can't control for. And I just let it go, and it always seems to get better after that. Or it might be financial worry, or a combination, or health, or you get into a point where you have to realise there's no point worrying about things you can't change. But if you can change something, obviously, think about it, look for solutions. But there are some things in life we can't change, like when someone leaves us. Monique did not want to be with this man. He should have just accepted it, but there's obviously something wrong in him. These stalkers, it is a severe mental illness, isn't it? But what is the answer? Just don't know what the answer is. It's a shame we can't give them those men in black wands and flash out so they forget they ever had a relationship in the first place, and then they're not going to get stalkerish because they'll forget about the relationship. But and only time helps that. It is devastating when somebody leaves you, somebody that you're in love with, whether you're the culprit, if you like, whether it's your fault or not, whether maybe you deserved it, maybe you did deserve it, maybe he was abusive towards Monique. We haven't had that confirmed yet. Nothing came out in the divorce papers, did it? But that doesn't mean to say that there wasn't anything, of course. But yeah, I was thinking about how people cope with breakups in different ways, don't they? Anyway, we're going to talk about that. So first of all, I'm going to waffle a little bit. I've got a few things to waffle about. So the first thing I want to waffle about is you're sort of lucky or unlucky, whichever way you look at it, that I'm even here today because yesterday I had a little accident. So now, they say that most accidents happen in the home, don't they? We worry, like, you'd be worried if you went off to some isolated place that something might happen to you. But most accidents happen in the home. I don't know what the exact percentage is, but it's big, and I bet if you've got dogs, that percentage or that likelihood of having an accident in your home is increased by a certain percentage. And if you've got 3 dogs in your home, I think it's probably increased by 30%, your likelihood of having an accident in the house. And I'll tell you why you have accidents, because of things like this that are lying around the floor. Now, in this house at the moment, because they've got some extra ones for Christmas, there are 4 of these in this house. And my dogs, I think they plan, where can we leave it where she won't see it and she'll trip over it, And this particular ball is just, they're brilliant, these Kong balls. I've got to say, if you've got a bigger dog, like, we've got one of our dogs is a German Shepherd. She can't, it's about the only ball that she can't destroy. She destroys tennis balls. Yes, she destroys everything, but not these Kong balls. Now, this is the only one that we've got that hasn't got squeak in it because we already had this. But for Christmas, I bought them one each of a similar type ball, but it's got squeak in it. And in fact, the big dog drove us mad on Christmas Day by squeaking it all the way through our Christmas dinner. So coming to the living room. So I'm constantly dodging these. In the living room, in the kitchen, on the stairs, in the bedroom. They're everywhere. You think we have 20 of them, but there's only 4 altogether. There's one everywhere. So yes, I came into the living room, didn't see the ball, stood on it, went flying. Luckily, I just sort of put my hands out. I think I fell quite delicately, really. I've got quite good reactions. So normally, I knew I was, the minute I realised I was falling, I just put my hands up so I didn't hit my head and sort of lay on the floor. And then all the dogs, the 2 dogs that were downstairs, they come running up like they're worrying, what's the matter? Or they're trying to get their ball. I don't know, probably more likely they're just thinking, I hope you haven't broken our ball. And then, of course, you've got to get up off the floor, like pulling yourself up on the furniture. I had to get a cushion and put it under my knees because the floors here, of course, there's no carpets. It's tiled floors. So when you kneel on it, it hurts. So, yeah, that was first bit of waffle. So, yeah, I was very lucky. I just got, in fact, actually, my knee's not even that bruised. Wasn't the worst fall I've ever had, put it that way. But, yeah, so what can I do? The thing is, they're here. I can see one on the floor here that the big dog's been playing with. They're littered about, but I think they leave them as traps deliberately. I'm sure they plan, where shall we leave it today? Where she won't find it. No, having said that, I don't think they would want anything to happen to me because I'm the one that feeds them. So I think they were concerned, my little Rocky in particular, he come, he's like, oh, is she all right? Is she all right? Is she all right? He would have helped me up if he could. He's a very proactive dog, bless him. So that's the first bit of waffle. So it's still on the dog theme. In fact, I think all my waffles are on animal theme. So yeah, went out for, took the dogs out. Actually, this morning, I don't think anything happened when we were on the walk. But yesterday, that same thing again. I'm walking along, somebody comes up with a dog. So I start walking, turn around and start walking the other way. To me, it's dog etiquette. You don't walk towards somebody when, and sort of encourage a bark fest. So I turned around and start walking the other way, and they just started aiming for me. Just wherever I went, they did that usual thing and aimed directly towards me. Why do people do that? What is wrong with people? There was many ways they could have gone where we were walking yesterday. And when I move, the best thing you could have done is just not followed me when I changed direction to avoid them. They then changed their direction to walk towards me. So, oh my God, it's like, dump. Why are you doing that? So we had a bark fest, of course, because they were aiming straight for us. So, I mean, luckily, I'd got my dog. It was only Rocky that I ever let off a lead. And I got him back, put him on his lead. So we're all on leads, but it's, just get this, her dog was barking, but it was on the lead. But, it's just unnecessary. She could have just walked the other way. But anyway, drives me mad. What was the other thing I wanted to tell you? Oh, yeah, so I don't know if you saw the video that I did about Sebastian Rogers last night, about these dogs picking up on scent of decomposition. And during the video, I think I had a visitation. Now, I'm going to talk more about this in members on Thursday. And in fact, I might do a seance on Thursday in the members. Because it was it was very strange. Now, first of all, you can hear that Princess Tia, she's here lying on the chair. She's quiet, isn't she? She's not whimpering. But in this particular video of Sebastian, right from more or less the beginning, she was sort of whining quite a lot, like that. And then just as I was sat sort of talking, apparently foot fell down a manhole, they said, and ended up in. So this is the video. I premiered it last night. If you want to watch the full video, it's there on my channel. Now, I'd been talking about that. Now, I remembered the young lad's name. It was Caleb Harris, the boy that disappeared from his home, and then it turned out that they think he fell down an open manhole. And if you believe this, I'm not sure about that. I think it might be foul play, the death of Caleb Harris, but I don't think the police are investigating it as that. And he was found a long time after. So this is the case that Tony Mathis was involved in. The guy who was helping in the Sebastian Rogers case, or hindering, whichever way you look at it. He's gone very quiet, hasn't he? He was involved in this Caleb Harris case, and I was just talking about that, talking about people going missing, and this is what happened. So I'll show you if you haven't seen it. Like a water sort of containment unit, and someone working there found him. It was someone who was working that found a Riley stray. Oh, sorry, bear in mind that my dog, Princess Tia, she'd been whining all the way through for the sort of 15-20 minutes building up to. She's at, when I look at her now, she's just lying in the chair now, as quiet as anything, falling asleep, listening to my voice. But during this video, she was very unsettled. In the Cumberland River, is that something that might happen with Sebastian one day? I mean, I hope they do find him one way or another, because the family deserve answers, don't they? So K9 Rambo was deployed from the parking area near the boat ramp and proceeded down the ramp to the shoreline. The K9 entered the water and actively searched. What the hell was that? Did you hear it? Did you hear that noise then? I've no idea what that was. Now, you know, if you watch our channel regular, you know that there's quite often bangers from the side. That was not. That was literally from the corner, and it sounded. Well, I thought something's fallen over in the corner. I thought, maybe the dog had knocked something over or whatever. But no, she was sat in the chair and she was just staring straight in the corner. And this noise, that's what it sounded like, something falling over. Let me go back to it again. So I don't know what that noise was. So on Thursday, members were going to have a seance. The ramp to the shoreline. The K9 entered the water and actively searched. What the hell was that? You hear that noise? I mean, what does it sound like to you now? If you watch my channel regularly, you've heard bangers and fireworks. That's not a banger or firework. It came from the corner. Look, I'm even pointing over there, even though you can't see. Maybe I'll show you on Thursday in the members, like what's in that corner. And I thought something's fallen over. Something. It sounded like almost, or a knock. A knock on wood, but it was from in here. It was not from outside. Very strange. We'll just listen one more time. You hear that noise then? I've no idea what that was. The water and actively searched. What the hell was that? You hear that noise then? I've no idea what that was. The dog's looking over in the corner as well. Oh my god. Oh, yeah, what was that? What was that, Tia? Gosh, what was that? Dear me. Real mystery. And Tia, she was just staring in the corner where the noise came from. Very odd. Very odd. Anyway, so as I say, Thursday night in members, we're going to have a little seance, going to have a little talk about that. Now, I haven't had any funny, quite often here, I've talked about experiences that I've had here and that. I do believe in spirits of people. So it's like somebody was trying to tell me something. Maybe it was that young lad trying to tell me his name is Caleb Harris, because I'd been going, oh, what was his name? What was his name? Who knows? Maybe it's Sebastian trying to tell me something. Maybe it's, none of that, but somebody I know in the other world. Or, but I do believe it, because that noise literally came out of nowhere, and wasn't like the Ralmo explosions we have outside, where it sounds like a bullet, or Ted Bundy. It could be Ted Bundy, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so we're going to look into that on Thursday. What else? Well, I've got one more bit of waffle to talk to you about. And I hope you'll have be patient with me while I say this. Now, I had a lovely email from a subscriber who's down there in Australia, down under. And in Australia, I have a lot of Australian followers, and they've had these terrible wildfires. Because, of course, we're in summer in Australia now, and they've had these terrible wildfires. And, people, we had a little look at it, didn't we? And people have had to be evacuated. And, of course, what's always terrifying is animals, because, they often don't get evacuated, do they? Because, well, the authorities can only evacuate so many, they always concentrate on people first, of course. And it reminded me of, anyway, they were telling me about a friend of theirs, or someone they know well, who has got an animal sanctuary out there in Australia, and were badly affected by these wildfires. But luckily, they only lost one animal. One of their animals had to be put down because of severe burns. But it was a lovely cow that they've had for ages. Anyway, we're going to have a look at this animal sanctuary. And, I'm always in awe of people who save animals, because I love animals, but, I know I couldn't do it. because I wouldn't be strong enough to do it, because there's a lot of lovely, we've looked at these people who save wombats or kangaroos, or people who save dogs or cats, or there's a sanctuary for everything, isn't there? Or a mixture. But you've also got to be quite tough to do it, though you've got to love animals, but you've got to, because sometimes it's not all happy, lovely, oh, lovely animals. They'll see some terrible cases of mistreatment, and by the time animals get to them, they're normally in that, they're like their last resort, to help them. It could be because they've been orphaned, like a lot of the kangaroos. The mums get killed, don't they, in car accidents, get run over, and the joeys are then taken to these sanctuaries where they keep them. Same with the wombats and things, or they just find these wombats covered, maybe very ill, covered in mange, etc., and they take them, make them better. But not everyone is a success story. They have a lot of heartbreak along the way, don't they? So, and there are a lot of animal sanctuaries, thank goodness. These people, they deserve medals for what they do for animals, because, animals, they can't fight back at all. Like children, they're vulnerable like children. They can't do things to help themselves, not when they're ill and stuff like that. So anyway, so she told me about this animal sanctuary in Australia that had been badly affected by the wildfires. And it made me think, when we had the floods here in this area, dog sanctuaries that I know, they had a terrible time, and some of them did lose dogs. They lost other animals that they look after, pigs, etc., that drowned because there was nothing they could do to save them, because everywhere was underwater. The police won't come, and the police would, I've got several friends one friend, she's got a cattery, and she phoned the police. The police wanted to evacuate her, but she wouldn't go without her cats, because these cats as well were other people's cats that she was looking after. She has a cattery that, if you ever need to leave your cat anywhere in Spain, you should take them to her, because they're air conditioned. They're treated like kings, and queens. So she took all the cats into her house, and they were all on the top floor of the house. And when she, I phoned the police. They said they would evacuate her, but they wouldn't take the cats. Anyway, she had no water, so they did drop off water to her by helicopter. And then other people that I know that have got dog sanctuaries around this area, they had to, get their dogs in high up as well. It's terrible when these sort of natural disasters happen. I think often on the media, we get to know, we don't get to know, maybe it's just as well because it's so distressing, about what happens to animals, particularly in fires. Wildfires, has probably been a lot of animals died. So anyway, just one animal from this particular wildlife sanctuary had to be put down because of her burns, and it was a cow, an old sedate cow. Let's see, how do they describe her? What was its name? She did tell me what the cow's name was, but I don't know if I've got that easy to find. Yeah, so some of the horses had run off apparently, but hopefully they're safe somewhere and will come back. And most, her house was saved. Most of her animals and herself are safe. So that's good, but unfortunately this one cat. Now, so we're going to have a look at the sanctuary. Now, I don't know if on the front page of the sanctuary, let me just see. I just want to raise awareness of it. So it's called the Gunya Animal Healing Sanctuary. So the call to help animals in need has always been deeply ingrained in me. Her name's Kathy, the woman who runs it, Kathy Munslow. As a young child, I set up my bedroom as a vet's clinic and always managed to find critters around the place who I felt needed help. At that stage, my dream was to become a vet. So I used to want to be a vet, and then when I had looked into it, and there's just so many disagreements. Vets have one of the highest self-deletion rates because people who become vets, they tend to be very caring people generally, and then it's quite depressing being a vet because it's not all sweetness and light. I did a very brief stint of vet nursing when I was fairly young, but I didn't know it, but I was already being pulled in the direction of rescue. And the other thing is, rescuing animals, it takes over your whole life. It's a 24-hour job. Not something you get up, you start at 9 and you finish at 5. It's 24-hour, you're always on call for animals in need. You just don't know who's going to dump a dog or an animal at your gate. All my dogs are rescue dogs. Um, Riley was from an animal hoarder's house down in Malaga. Um, Little Rocky, he was dumped outside a friend of mine's animal sanctuary. Now, I've got a lot of friends who do this animal saving, and two of them have died young. I think it's very stressful. One, Irene or Irene, where I got Little Rocky from, she had a brain aneurysm. I think that's the stress. She was only, I think she was 60 or something. And then another guy that I knew did it, Warren, he just died in his sleep, and he was similar age, late 50s, early 60s. I think it's just so stressful. But yeah, so Little Rocky's was found out dumped outside an animal shelter. Riley was rescued from an animal hoarder's house. And Princess Tia, it was a German Shepherd that was rescued, and she was pregnant, and she had 11 puppies, and they called them the football team. And we had one of those puppies, which is Princess Tia. So there's another 10 of them around somewhere around my little village. So in 2000, she volunteered on weekends at a local animal shelter while she worked full time. It was there that the vision of Gunya began to form in my head, a place where animals in need could come and live in a peaceful, natural environment whilst receiving all the help and care they needed in order to recover from past trauma. A place where they felt comfortable to be themselves and there was no clock ticking to move them on. Back then, there were far fewer foster carers and rescue groups working alongside shelters. I began fostering for the shelter. I also adopted dogs and cats who were proving difficult to rehome and whose time was running out. I probably still didn't know that I'd just begun on the path of my true calling. I think it has to be a calling, doesn't it? Several years later, I moved to a 10-acre property with the aim of being able to offer a home to larger animals. Some of the original rescues were still here at Gunya until fairly recently. Jamelda, Sasha and Mishka were all original 2000 rescues, and Suki Puss was rescued not long after. And in 2010, everything changed in the blink of an eye. I took in Midget, now known as Monkey, a tiny pony with a huge personality and a cleft palate. Without cutting edge and very expensive surgery, her condition could prove fatal at any moment. And at that time, social media was a whole new world that was yet to grow into the force it is today, and we relied on TV, newspapers and magazines. But thankfully for Midget, her story and fight for life is one they embraced. She appeared in media all over the country and people from everywhere wanted to help her. So apparently they got Midget's life-saving surgery, and there was extra for her to continue her rescue work. She set up a charity with its own bank account, which had a good head start. And on the 8th of July 2010, Gunya Animal Healing Sanctuary was officially born. So, and then she moved to a bigger place, because the thing is, once you start rescuing animals, that's it. It doesn't ever end, does it? And you need more and more space. So she finally found a 130-acre safe haven and secured it as a new home for the charity. And then they had to relocate every single resident hours away to Gunya's new haven. And the events that transpired over all these years still literally blow my mind. It's been an incredible journey with some real highs and a few very deep chasms. This most recent financial challenge is hopefully just a hiccup that can be eliminated with enough extra regular support. So that's a very condensed version of the past 23 years here in Animal Rescue. If you're still with me, thank you. Well, I've only just found. So obviously I'm not in Australia, but you can volunteer as well if you want to volunteer. If you can donate, you can buy merchandise. There's a lot of different things you can do. Now, I don't know. Look, I don't know if this is the cow that she's just lost, because there's the merchandise. They create a natural and therapeutic environment. So I just wanted to tell you about that. I like to spotlight these things, and this is one I've never heard of before. There's many, many more. I know there's many, many more. I mean, it looks like a beautiful place, doesn't it? Yeah, so thank God there are people out there doing these kind of things. So thank you, Kathy, for being one of those people. Thank you. Oh, the dog's snoring. Can you hear her snoring? So Princess Tia is snoring. So this is how different she is from that premiere that I was recording yesterday, and how she was very unsettled and whimpering. And then we had that funny experience with the noise. It's completely different today. She's literally laying in the chair snoring. There was definitely something going on yesterday, but we'll have a look in members on Thursday. We'll do a little bit of a seance and see what happens. Okay, so I have finished waffling now. You'll be glad to hear if you don't like the waffle. If you like the waffle, you might be disappointed to know that I've finished waffling. But so we're going to come on and talk about this doctor. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it's surprising, really. I think, there's a few things that are sort of like shockers, really, in this case. And one, it's just incredible that anyone could just walk into someone's house like that and cold-bloodedly shoot this couple, even though their children were in the house. I mean, that's a pretty savage thing to do, isn't it? Who would even think it? You can't even get your head around that. And of course, it's in cold blood, complete cold blood, because they did, it's not that it was an argument and it got out of hand or whatever. This person planned it. Do you know from where he lived, he drove 4.5 hours to the Tepe's home. 4.5 hours. So yeah, it wasn't just, he's got in a strop, and he's decided, they just live around the corner, and he's just decided to go round there and shoot them in a moment of madness. This is not a moment of madness. This is a 4.5 hour drive where he could have come to his senses at any moment. And although, we're thinking, is it some sort of psychotic break? Psychotic breaks really don't normally last all that time. If you just had a moment where you're going to do something crazy, 4.5 hours later when you're still driving, or 3 hours later when you're still on your way there, plenty of time to change your mind, to calm down, to look at things differently. You know, I think it's not, personally, I don't think it was a psychotic break. I think this man is cruel. I think he's like just in his own lane with all that hate. It's like spite, isn't it? Just anger that they were so happy and he wasn't. Some people always need somebody else to blame for their own unhappiness. You know, we all go through periods of unhappiness, but it's no point in blaming anyone else. You're the only person, unless that person is actually, doing something to you, like domestic control, coercive control, or whatever. He was separate. They weren't controlling him or doing anything bad to him. He was, he is in control of his own happiness. It's not anybody else's fault that he's not happy. And even if somebody leaves you, even if they leave you in a horrible way, still not really, you can't hold that, you just have to move on, don't you? But some people can't. Some people are just consumed by spite, and it's all everybody else's fault and not theirs. That's what I think of this man. And him being a surgeon, you presume he's reasonably intelligent. I don't know. You must have to be intelligent to get a medical degree. Surely you must. I know that doesn't necessarily mean common sense, but it's like you just. I just think he's consumed with spite. I think he's a selfish, narcissistic twat. To be honest, that's my opinion. I don't feel any sympathy, and when I see him, I don't feel any different. We're going to have a look at him in the court in a minute, and I'll tell you that defender that had to stand next to him, she looked uncomfortable. He was staring at her. He's a very tall, imposing guy, big, broad guy, and he was stood too close to her. He was definitely in her space, and she felt uncomfortable and moved away. Why was he stood so close to her? Do you know people like that? They're low, what you might call low in self-monitoring. I hate people standing in my space, or that I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's like if it's your partner, you want them in your space. But when somebody leans over too much or touches you when you haven't invited them to touch you, or that, I hate those kind of things. It really does make me feel uncomfortable. And he's one of those people. He's just oblivious to other people, I think. And I think to be a surgeon, in a way, you have to be a bit like that, because you've got to be quite distant, haven't you? You can't get emotionally involved in operations and stuff like that, because, well, you just can't, can you? Because you've got to look on it as just a case. So I do think there's a certain, I think surgeons are ice cold, and luckily for that, they have to be. You won't, God, you won't want me operating on you, that's for sure. I'd be going, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Oh, did that hurt? Did that hurt? You don't want that, do you? You just want someone who's going to do the job professionally. So I do think the surgeons are a little bit, just by, they have to be, a little bit cold and aloof. So that's the first thing. He travelled 4.5 hours there and 4.5 hours back to murder these people. So he had plenty of time to change his mind. It wasn't a crime in the heat of the moment. It was planned. Now, something that I just want to show you is, so now they seem to know the exact time they released a thing with the exact time that Monica and Spencer were apparently murdered. How do they know? How do they know the exact time? Let's have a look at this. Look. So this is, don't know what this is. It's a report anyway about it. And it's got time of death or time of offence time, 3:52 a.m. How do they know? So that must be the time. There's, it's not even, between 2 and 3 or between 3 and 4. 3:52 a.m. A very precise time. So there's got to be some data somewhere. Either the door cam, maybe Spencer and Monique had a, door alarm sort of thing at the front door or the back door. Maybe it triggered a camera that took a photo. I mean, they may have a photo of somebody, of the intruder going in. Or maybe that if he did have the keypad, because we still don't know how he actually accessed the property, did he have the keypad number? In which case, I would imagine it would the app for the keypad, won't it show up the time that somebody went in? So it's either going to be the door cam, or it's going to be when he actually accessed the property, or maybe somebody heard something. I thought that none of the neighbours had heard gunshots, but of course, we don't have the full details yet. Now, the other thing that's interesting that they're saying now is that Monique was shot multiple times, where originally they said that Spencer was shot multiple times. So, which is true, or maybe both are true? Initially we were told that Monique was shot once in the chest. That was what's always been right from day one with this case. Now they're saying multiple gunshot wounds for Monique. So it says it was Jennifer Coffindaffer says it was reported early on that only 3 shell casings were found at the scene of the murders. Now, of course, that does not mean, and she makes a good point there, does not necessarily mean only 3 shots were fired. It may be that he fired 10 shots, but there were 3 shell casings he couldn't find when he was maybe he tried to pick up the shell casings to take with him, because it does seem strange that he would leave the shell casings there, because they're just an automatic link, to your weapon, aren't they? So were there only 3 shell casings that he could find? They could have, 3 cases he couldn't find. There could have been 10 shell casings. He's picked up 7, but he couldn't find the other 3 because he was rushing off. Were they under the bed? Where had they ended up? Maybe he just couldn't find them. And he felt like the children were starting to cry or whatever. And, he just wanted to get out of there. So he just picked up the shell casings he could. So we don't know really exactly how many in total gunshots there were. All we've been told so far is multiple. First of all, for Spencer, they said multiple, which multiple is just more than one. It could be anything from 2 to 20, really, couldn't it? And now they're saying that Monique was shot multiple times as well, which does make sense, really, when you think about it, because this man, if he was so angry, he's likely to shoot more than once, isn't he? Because he want to be sure that they were dead. That's just the brutal reality of it. And then he'd want to get out of there as quick as possible, as soon as he heard the children waking up and crying or whatever, wouldn't he? And the dog maybe was barking, though nobody seemed to hear the dog barking or anything. He didn't shoot the dog, he didn't shoot the children. Yeah. So that's something I just wanted to show you. Now, this other news that's coming out is that he has been accused of malpractice. So this makes me wonder: is this why? Because we like to look for reasons, don't we? So apparently, the doctor of People magazine, but not only the People magazine, because it's been reported from different sources. The doctor accused of accusing his ex-wife and husband was sued for malpractice 3 months before the death, and they've disappeared. But I don't see that he can just have disappeared, because he was, everybody knew where he lived. He was So Michael McKees named in an amended complaint filed on September the 29th, 2025 by a man who allegedly required emergency surgery after an 8-inch catheter broke off in his leg. So, you know, it's like in America, especially, you know, it's a suing culture, isn't it? Was this guy about to sue him? Now, there's been a lot of talk, you know, people saying, oh, yeah, he must have had money because he was a surgeon. God, he's got this really wicked face. I'm sorry, I think he's got a wicked face. I know they say you shouldn't go by appearances, but look at him. God, if you wouldn't want to meet him up a dark alley, would you? If I was out walking my dog and he came walking towards me, I'd absolutely shit myself because I think he just looks scary, doesn't he? Anyway, so yeah, you know what it's like in America for suing culture. Was he just about to be sued for this catheter breaking off in someone's leg? Maybe he was already going down the hill of bad mental health or whatever, getting, you know, he had this court case, whatever it was, coming up with Monique. You know, who knows? Christmas, as you know, I think Christmas is a big factor in this. Big dates, you know, big events cause people to start thinking about their lives and how miserable they are or how happy they are. You know, Christmas can be the best time and it can be the worst time, depending on what situation you're in at the time in your life. Yeah, something's triggered him, that's for sure, to wait all this time. So, did he feel, you know, that he was going to get sued? So now's the time to do it. Avoid being sued. So yeah, Michael McKee is accused of medical malpractice in an amended complaint filed by a man in Las Vegas on September the 29th, 2025. But he could not be served papers because he allegedly just disappeared. Well, I don't think he just disappeared because he was there in his flat when the police went for him. And 3 months after that complaint was filed, his ex-wife Monique and her husband Spencer were killed inside their Columbus, Ohio home as the two children slept. McKee, 39, is now in an Illinois jail waiting extradition to Ohio after being accused of murdering the couple more than 8 years after he and Monique divorced. And 3 months before the deaths of Monique and Spencer, the man accused of murdering the couple was sued for medical malpractice. He allegedly oversaw a botched surgery at Las Vegas Surgical Associates, during which an 8.6-inch catheter shard broke off in a patient's leg, according to a copy of an amended complaint filed in Clark County Court and obtained by the People magazine. That amended complaint was filed on September 29, 25, and the patient's lawyer spent over a month trying to track McKee down with no luck. Well, that's really surprised me because, as I say, the police found him just like that. He had this condo where he was living and he was living there, so, don't know. So is that the straw that broke the camel's back? Has he been festering all this time and then maybe he's seen something, he's thinking, oh, Spencer and Mo, they're so happy and it's all their fault that I'm unhappy, because it would all be everybody else's fault. And the other thing I wanted to say is that, there's been a lot of talk about, oh, well, he's a surgeon, he's got no children that we know of or any commitments apart from his nice condo. He should be reasonably well off. But you know what? He might not be because, people live up to their means. He could be a drug addict for all we know. He could be taking cocaine every day. He could be, a gambler. He could be an alcoholic. He could be any of those things. People live up to their means, don't they? It doesn't matter if you're earning 50 grand a year or 15 grand a year, people tend to spend what all their money, don't they, or whatever. He had quite a few cars, do you remember, when the divorce settlement came? Maybe just like the High Lad doesn't mean to say he had lots of money left over, but he didn't have children, that's for sure. So that you're always a lot better off if you haven't got children, that's for sure, because children cost a lot of money. That's just the way it is. But yeah, we still don't really know. He's probably a lot to come out about his life. Did he not have a partner? It's like, he married Mo. And I was thinking about that, thinking how many people, men and women, quite often get married young, don't they? I got married very young. Well, I didn't feel young at the time. I thought I'd done well to get to 20, 21 before I got married. Because both my sisters had to get married in their teens because they were pregnant. So, I thought I'd done really well to get to early 20s and not be pregnant, not have to get married. But of course, people would tell you, like mainly your parents say to you, you're a bit young, that. And you think, oh, for God's sake, I'm not young, I'm 21, for God's sake. So, of course, as you get older, you realise that actually you were too young, even at 21, really, to get married. In fact, I think I'm still too young to get married at in my 60s, because it's a big decision, isn't it? Now, it works out for some people, don't get me wrong. Some people get married very young, even teenagers, and stay together all their lives. It does work out for some people. But in general, it doesn't, does it? In this day and age, there's not many people that are married for all those years like there used to be. That's just the way it is. I think, yeah, so often people do make mistakes with their first marriage, don't they? And you hope that by the time they get to their second marriage, they've made a wiser choice. But some people, even that doesn't work out. Some people, it's not unusual for people to be married, 3 times, even 4 times. Marriage is difficult, isn't it? It's like, people get married because in the throes of the early, I mean, there's nothing nicer than that early part of a relationship. It is lovely, when you just, finding out about each other and you're in love, and, even when the other person does irritating things, you love it. You love everything they do, everything about them. You just want to be with them all the time. You never stop talking. It's lovely that. I don't think there's anything nicer than that. I am a romantic in that sense. I do believe in romance, and I love that feeling of being in love. But of course, it doesn't last, does it? I think that's where the challenge comes for most people, and definitely for me, is when it settles down into a relationship, and all those things you loved about that person start to irritate you. And what I found in relationships is quite often people fall for you, I mean, me, if you like, because they like the fact, well, I used to be, you know, sociable and outgoing, and that people fall for you because they like that about you, but then they don't want you to be like that anymore, because they only want you to be like that with them. They don't want you to be like that with other people. That's a problem, I think. And then jealousy comes in, and from both sides. I can be a very jealous person. It just all becomes stressful, doesn't it? But so I wonder if that's what happened with Monique. Did she, when she married him, see another side of him? All that love bombing, maybe that often happens in the early stages of a relationship, isn't it? And you think, oh, they really care about me. They want to know where I am all the time. Then it becomes, you think, why do they want to know where I am all the time? You can't even visit your family, or you can't even go out with your friends to the gym, or that's sort of what happened to me in that controlling relationship I had. It was like, oh, I want to come. I want to come everywhere with you. So where does it cross the line from being sort of just caring about what you're doing and making sure you get home safely, and that to total control, and you can't go anywhere without me? And it doesn't happen overnight, does it? It happens gradually. So before you know it, you're in this big hole that you can't get out of. But see, Mo was only married for 7 months, so this was a very short marriage. So she found out quite quickly that she didn't want to be with this person. So something must have happened. Something must have happened. So at one point, the process server tasked with delivering the complaint to McKee spoke with one of his co-workers about his whereabouts. According to a declaration of due diligence filed in the case, and he was told he just disappeared. He didn't disappear, he was in his flat, wasn't he? But anyway, his location is no longer a secret. On January the 10th, he was booked into the Winnebago County Jail. I hope we get the body cam of the arrest at some point. Where did he get arrested? He's expected to be charged with 2 counts of aggravated murder with premeditation in the deaths of his ex-wife Monique and her dentist husband Spencer. So just explaining how, so these charges have been ramped up. So he was originally charged with murder. It's now been changed to aggravated murder, and that is much more serious. This is the way it works in this state. So it's premeditation, and aggravating factors are like that because there were 2 people killed at the same time. So he could possibly face the death penalty because it's the highest it's different from regular murder, if you like. I suppose that could be just in a fit of rage or a crime of passion type murder. His charges now are much more serious than that. Premeditation, more than one person, etc., etc. So yeah, he's going to get the book thrown at him. When he came into the courtroom there, he's very stony faced. But yeah, I didn't like the way he was looking at the defence lawyer. I don't know. If I was there, I wouldn't have wanted to be stood next to him. That's for sure. So apparently the arrest warrant said they were able to identify a suspect through neighbourhood video surveillance. They then tracked that person to a vehicle which arrived just prior to the homicides and left shortly after the homicides. And then they tracked him to Rockford, a city in Illinois located 450 miles away. So this is how far he travelled to murder these people. 450 miles to kill someone. That's not a crime of passion, is it? So apparently he moved to Chicago sometime after May 2024, and that's when the malpractice lawsuit was first filed against his employer. And Illinois state medical records show that he had been licensed to practice in the state starting in October 2024, and just by this past July he purchased a penthouse apartment in Chicago for $400,000. And then in September he was named. So this is something that could contribute towards it. Maybe he was just peed off anyway, and for some reason he probably thought it's all Monique's fault because she left him, and since she left him his life went downhill. I don't know. So the complaint alleges that the failure of Michael David McKee MD to properly train or supervise his co-worker caused the catheter or device to shear or fracture, leaving an 8.6 portion of the device in the plaintiff's body. And it goes on to claim that the plaintiff suffered numerous adverse sequelae because McKee allegedly breached the standard of care, including lower extremity bleeding, edema, pain, discoloration, disfigurement, and other injuries. And on October the 9th, McKee's co-worker told the process server that the vascular surgeon had just disappeared. And on November the 10th, the plaintiff's lawyer filed a motion asking the judge that he be able to serve McKee via publication. And the judge delayed hearing arguments on that motion, which would allow the plaintiff to identify McKee as being a defendant in the complaint in a legal journal in lieu of physically serving him the legal document multiple times before finally approving the motion on January the 6th. So that case is set to go to trial in July 2027, and McKee is one of the defendants. I wonder what will happen now. So the plaintiff is seeking damages totaling over $50,000, and because neither Nevada or Illinois require doctors to be insured, it's unclear if McKee would be covered if convicted or be forced to pay out of pocket. He will next appear in Franklin County Court, though, as early as this week, where he's expected to be arraigned on 2 counts of murder. So, is that a contributing factor, do you think? Let me know, of course. Let me know what you in. Do you think that's got anything to do with him finally snapping? Do you think he thought, "Oh, sod this," What do you think? Or do you think it doesn't really matter that? Or, what has triggered this man? Anyway, we're going to look now at what the neighbours had to say, or one neighbour that got interviewed on Banfield. So give credit to Banfield. We've watched her a few times. So we're just going to watch the bit where the neighbour talks. Very interesting to hear the neighbour speak. I've just got to turn something down. There you go. And yeah, the usual thing. Oh yeah, lovely guy, nice guy. Never would have thought he would have done anything like this. Oh.
Like they can't believe they are hearing of this kind of an arrest of one of their neighbors. And earlier on my News Nation show, I talked to one of those neighbors. Geraldine Koleric lives in Dr. McKee's building, 2 floors down. And she spoke to him many times before he ended up being arrested for a double murder. Here's my conversation with her. Geraldine, thank you so much for being on the program. I just wanted to get your first reaction to hearing that this neighbor of yours, who you'd spoken with and thought was delightful, has been arrested on 2 aggravated murders.
Yeah, it's really was a shock to the building and everything, because I met him really once. We really talked at the poolside, and that was during the summer, shortly after he moved in. And we talked at the pool, and he was very friendly. We were all barbecuing at that time, and he did not seem like somebody that would be doing something like this. But like Ashley, like you point out, you don't know what is in a person's mind, what they're obsessing about, and what they're going through in their mind, and what causes them to react. I saw him.
Definitely true, isn't it? You just don't know. People seem, I mean, as they see, looking at him there, he looks like a psycho, doesn't he? But, it's easy to say now, I suppose, but you literally don't know. You pass your neighbours. You say, there's a couple of my neighbours, I would never be surprised if I saw them arrested for murder. You just, but then it's normally seems to be the ones that people didn't expect, like, the neighbour who is a bit aggressive or whatever. It doesn't seem to happen. It's always the one when they say, oh no, we would never have thought that.
Last week, 2 going by, and we would just say, hi, how are you? Hi, and that's it. We never really spoke after that. He was kind of a quiet person to himself. But it is shocking that a resident of this building was charged with such a terrible crime. And residents,
I can't imagine.
Well, yeah, that's it. So he's not just been charged. It'd be bad enough if you found out he was a drug runner or, I don't know, done something. But this is like, you couldn't do much worse, could you, than sort of travel 450 miles and shoot your ex-wife and her partner in front of their children? I mean, this is a huge crime. So, you just don't know what's going on in people's heads, in people's homes. You don't know, as we've talked about, you've got, everyone's got their public life, their private life, and their secret life. And his secret life was all this hate he was harboring.
Can I ask you, how did you all even find out? Like, how did the news sort of spread through the building?
Well, I found out because there was Channel 7 crew that was outside there of our building trying to talk to residents. And I walked up to them because I used to work at Channel 7 in Chicago. I was assignment editor. And I said, what's happening over here? What's going on? The doorman said you wanted to talk with me. And they told me about what was happening. And when they said Mike McKee, I said, well, I don't know if I know him. Show me a picture. And then they showed me the picture. And I went, oh my gosh, I know him. He's one of my neighbors. He lives two stories above me in the building here. And I said, why? My goodness, it was unbelievable that this man.
See, in America as well, because you're allowed to carry guns. So, like, anywhere you live, you don't know what weapons your neighbours have got in their homes, I suppose. They could come out with a machete or a knife, or, in the UK, it's more knife crime, isn't it? Knife crime is rampant in a lot of countries now, isn't it? But I just think it's worth knowing that all your neighbours may have a gun. So, if they just got, annoyed with something you did, they came out, they've got, he's got a gun there, he's used his gun to buy a gun in a supermarket or in a bloody pawn shop or whatever. It's quite scary. So then you'd have to have a gun as well for your own self-protection. And so probably everyone in that bloody condo's got a gun.
And he was just so nice when I talked to him. And then, as I said, we would pass each other. This is a building of a lot of professional people, okay? And people that come in.
Speaking of that, I want to let, sorry to interrupt, Geraldine, sorry to interrupt, but I want to let our viewers know that when you say it's a building of professional people, that includes you. Not only did you work at Channel 7 as an assignment editor, you're also a true crime author. So tell the audience what you did to take a peek 2 floors up where he lived and what you saw.
Well, I went upstairs and I saw a police officer sitting right in front of his door, guarding his place there. And I took a little video. I guess it's a newswoman in me. And I also took a picture of what his apartment looked like from the outside. And I just...
Look, I mean, this did make me smile a little bit because there's a policewoman there. She's sat on her phone. She's probably having a look at Facebook. Sat in front of the door, like guarding the door of the apartment where he lived. And this lady goes up and starts taking a video of her. I mean, good that she did, because we want all the details, don't we? I mean, it's a human curiosity is a human thing. To see, when you see the sort of banality of true crime, if you like, these things are going on all the time. True crime cases, and this is like the nuts and bolts of it. You got just a policewoman sat outside her door, just literally guarding that door, isn't she? She's literally there just to make sure that nobody goes in that door, because people will find out where Michael lived and be going round there. I mean, she lives in the block, so she's got every reason to be there. But there'll be other people, probably internet sleuths, as they call them, or armchair detectives. But some armchair detectives get out their armchairs, don't they, and go and film things. The thing is, you can't stop people going into a public building like that and taking a video. But that policewoman sat there just to make sure no one actually goes into the flat. But it's funny, I wonder if she is on Facebook there. Maybe she's on Bumble.
Was surprised that there's a police officer on duty there 24 hours. And then I came up the next day, and there, Lord and behold, I saw that there were now investigators there. And I went to get my car in the garage, and there was an investigation van saying crime lab from Columbus. So that is something else that I videotaped right away. And the investigators going to the van. And when I went upstairs, I saw that they were taking boxes of stuff out of there and putting it in there. They had one box and they were putting stuff in there. You know what? It's a very circumstantial evidence thing. You have the digital stuff and so on, but you don't have the firing gun. You know what I mean? That's something that they're looking for. And I'm sure.
Well, they may have the gun by now. We don't know, because if they've gone into his apartment, taken everything away, for analysis, they may have found the gun there. Or would he have dumped the gun on his way back? He had 4.5 hours driving back from murdering this poor couple. He had 4.5 hours to dump that gun somewhere. So it could be anywhere, couldn't it? Or, he's a bit of a thicko. Let me put my thicko. I'm going to use the thicko. He's a bit of a thicko. Really. Because they might be a surgeon. But I think just the way he doesn't care if he gets, or he doesn't care if he goes to prison for the rest of his life, because at least he knows that they're not having a good life. Some people are like that, isn't it? I'm surprised he didn't delete himself, to be honest, but then some people are too cowardly to do that. It's one thing killing other people and then turning the gun on yourself, although it happens a lot, of course. It takes quite a bit of doing that, doesn't it? I think it's probably, it sounds awful, but it's sort of easier to kill other people than it is yourself, because you'd be terrified, really, wouldn't you? Especially if you'd killed other people, so you're going to hell. Let me put the hell emoji up. This guy, this is where he's going. He's one of them thickos going to hell. I need to use the emojis. He's got the, but maybe he doesn't care. Sometimes they don't care. They don't care what, he might be just like, oh, well, they're not happy anymore, so I don't care what happens to me. I'm not going to let that guy take me to court. I'll be in prison anyway, be looked after for the rest of his life. It's horrible to be in prison, of course, in a way, but, that's it. You never got to worry about another bill again, have you? Never have to worry about your bills. How are you going to get the shopping in for the end of the week? You've got no worries in a way.
That they're also looking for
I will be
any messages
I'll be
he had or drawings and things like that.
We're about to do a deep dive with investigators who do this for a living, who are going to run down the list of everything they probably looked for in that apartment and seized, as well as other places as well. But I'd like to just ask you in retrospect, we all look back at things and people when we learn something that's jarring, and then we think, okay, that now in retrospect, it's unusual. Was there anything about Dr. Michael McKee that was the least bit unusual or struck you as unusual in retrospect?
No, nothing struck me as being unusual. He was a business person coming in. I'll be passing the hallway. We'd be in the elevator and I'd say hi and he'd say hi. We were all tired from working and everything like that. But, the building put out a memo to all the residents. And this is a memo, and it says, good afternoon, residents. Due to an active police investigation involving a resident, you may see and encounter law enforcement officials in and around the building over the next few days. Now, that is what alarmed a lot of residents to what was happening.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And that was
I'm sorry, Geraldine, I'm sorry that you and all of these residents sort of have come, within arm's length of this very tragic story in Columbus. But I'm really appreciative for your, First of all, your spidey sense is to go upstairs and take a look, but also thanks for your perspective and your information about your neighbor. I do appreciate this tonight.
I really feel that Ashley cut her off too. I think there's a lot that this woman could have said about, him and the situation in the flat and how everyone's feeling. So, I did feel like she cut. In fact, even later on in the video, Ashley said, "Oh, I wasn't meaning to cut her off." So, obviously, people had said you're cutting her off. But anyway, so whether this lady will come back and do an interview again, I thought it was very, very interesting, her input. About what he was like or what he came over as being like, and about the email that circulated to all the residents, and that it must be very disturbing if you live in a block like that, even more so there than if you live on a street, because you live on a street, all the houses are separate, but there, you're literally sharing the apartment block with this man, and God, it sort of made me think a little bit about, I don't know why it's just come into my head, but Anna Knezevich, and she lived in an apartment block, didn't she, in Madrid, and her ex-husband, David, they've been split up for a while, not 7 years like this, but, he just walked in there, somehow he got into her apartment, murdered her, it's thought, and then put her in a suitcase and brought her out. So you think about all the other people, that was all going on. That was all going on in that apartment block. There's quite a lot of other people living in that apartment block. It's a very salubrious apartment block in Madrid. And that guy, I call him David Konobovich because he's another thicko who thought he was clever. Just walked into her home. How do these people just walk into people's homes? Walk in, murdered her, and took her out in a suitcase. Her dead body out in a suitcase. Terrible. And of course, he was caught in the end. And there is a playlist about Anna Knezevich on my channel. But he, unfortunately, finally was arrested when he returned to America. And but he then deleted himself in prison. Maybe this guy will do that, eh? And unfortunately, Anna Knezevich, her body has never been found because he took his secrets with him. So not only is a knob for killing her, a twonk for killing her, but he's a double twonk because he's now taking himself away from this earth. And Anna's family still don't know where her remains are because she could be anywhere. He just took her off in a suitcase and then drove back to Serbia. They think he might have dumped Anna in Italy somewhere because he had a friend there. But anyway, they're still looking for her, but whether they'll ever find Anna's remains and give her family knows she's dead. But they want to bring lay her to rest properly. Now, just before I finish, I'm just about to finish now, but I just wanted to show you. I thought he was very intimidating. He's a very intimidating man, because of his stature, because he's tall, broad. But that stone-faced look, she's pointing to him, telling him where to stand.
And that tummy chain went all the way around his back. Here's my assumption, although I couldn't see it from the camera angle, he was probably in leg irons as well. He seemed to be shuffling along, and that's usually indicative of leg irons. Although, honestly, some people shuffle. And I say that because I still want to know if it was Dr. McKee they're going to allege was the hulking figure in the back alley skulking.
Oh, they have said that this was him. This person this was him, and you can see that it's him as well, can't you?
Along after the murders, because there's a definite shuffle gait to the person who's walking in the back alley, and you cannot compare it to the courtroom because if you're wearing, leg irons, you're not walking like you normally would walk. But incidentally, let's just get to the meat and potatoes of this hearing. It was really short. Like way shorter than I thought. I thought we might hear.
I just want to show you the way he looks at the defense.
Overall, so while today was not a plea hearing, obviously we heard from that public defender that was appointed to him that he intends to plead not guilty when he does get to Ohio. He recognizes that the easiest, in fact,
so she goes over and stands next to him.
Move forward for everybody, for himself as defendant, for the people in Winnebago County, for the people in Franklin County, is to waive extradition. So that's what this was all about today. He did not.
Let me turn that sound down, actually. So as the defense lawyer is talking to the judge, he keeps looking at the defense lawyer. Look, I don't know, he's the way he's looking at her. I would have felt really uncomfortable if I was her. And he stood far too close for my liking. Why is he looking at her, not the judge? Probably can't face the judge. I don't know. But he's sort of looking down. He just feels everything he does is intimidating. So then when she gets him to sign the paper, he has to sign something, that'll be the waiver, I suppose. And she puts the paper down there with the pen. He moves really close to her and she has to actually move away from him. Just gives off that air of being an absolute, I don't know, he's intimidating. Yeah, so she pushes the paper over and gives him the pen. Look how he stands right up to her. Oh my God, I would go back, get a meter away from me, for fuck's sake. So look, yeah, did you see how he stood right near to her? He moved right close to her to sign that paper. And just wanted to show you that, because to me, it says a lot about the type of person he is, type of imposing, intimidating person. Makes you wonder what happened between him and Monique in that short marriage. Oh God, I couldn't bear him touching me like that. She's like, I'm staying over here. Anyway, so let me know what you think about all of it. Don't forget to leave your, Heather, thank you so much. You know, I've been worrying about you. I was going to email you actually, because I haven't seen you for a little while. I hope you're well. Hope everything's okay there. Hope your little animals that you're feeding are okay in this cold, horrible weather. I'm sure you're keeping them. I'm sure you're keeping them all fed. Bless them. They'll be relying on you in the winter. Thank you so much, Heather. Very much appreciated. Thank you. I'm glad to see you on here. I've been a little bit worried about you. Oh, look, the dogs woke up. You come and say hello. Yeah, so just finishing now, Heather. I don't know if you've only just started watching or you've been watching for a while, but we'll see. Hopefully you'll be in members on Thursday. We're going to have a little seance on Thursday. Maybe you'll get a chance to watch this video from the beginning and see the visitation that I had in another video that I did. And we're going to look into that. I'm going to have a little, hello, is there anybody there? Seance type thing in the members, I think, on Thursday. But yeah, so that's it really. That's all that I've got to say. Thank you so much, Heather, for the Ko-fi, but thank you to everybody who's watched. Thank you for caring about Spencer and Monique, and also thank you for putting up with the waffle at the beginning of this video. So I am going to be releasing this video without the waffle. I will cut it down and just put on the relevant bits. Hello, baby. There's the dog. Let's see. Let's have a look. There she is. Hello. You're so beautiful, aren't you? So beautiful. There's Tia. She knows. It's funny. She knows when I'm finishing. She's thinking, all right, come and give me some attention now. Are you a beautiful girl? Are you a beautiful girl? When you're not barking, you're a beautiful girl. Oh, I've put that. Gone a bit wrong with the camera there, but it's too high up, isn't it? Like that. Is that better? That's too low down. There you go. Okay, so yeah, thank you all for watching. See you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Heather. Hope you're well.